Welcome to Limitless, the Blind Beginnings podcast where we discuss tips, tricks, and current topics related to all things in the blind and partially sighted community. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the founder of Blind Beginnings and your host, Shawn Marsolais, and whatever co-host is on this week. Now, here's your host, Shawn.
Welcome to the Limitless Podcast. I'm Shawn Marsolais. I'm the founder of Blind Beginnings. I grew up with retinitis pigmentosa and started Blind Beginnings 12 years ago because I really wanted to support children and youth who are blind across BC reach their full potential. And I'm so excited to be hanging out with some awesome youth and young adults who I've had the pleasure of working with for many years. And we're going to do this great thing together.
And my name is Owen, and I have been a member of Blind Beginnings since about 2013. I'm 24 years old, and I am somewhat nearsighted. I have been going to BCIT and recently graduated, taking the television broadcast course. And currently I volunteer for Blind Beginnings, and I also work at PetSmart and the Kidney Foundation. And I also DJ on the side, so if anybody has parties, weddings, hit me up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clement. I am from Vancouver. I was born and raised in the lovely, lovely city of Vancouver, specifically East Van. I have Nori disease, which is a hereditary genetic disorder that results in a deformed retina, which in my case has led to total blindness since birth. I've been involved in Blind Beginnings since 2008 when the organization first started, and I am a guitar player, singer, and all-time jack-of-all-trades hobbyist because there are very few things that I will not try.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kolby and I grew up in the small town of Rossland. It's in the Kootenays, and I was born with a genetic disorder called Alström syndrome, and one of the components to that is rod cone dystrophy, which is a deteriorative eye condition causing my retina to deteriorate. I now see some light, but that's about all. I'm currently attending a post-secondary institution where I'm working towards completing my bachelor's in biology and hopefully to get my master's in genetic counseling. I really want to help others and just make a change in the lives that I come across.
Hello, my name is Randi. I'm originally from 100 Mile House, British Columbia, currently sitting in New Westminster, British Columbia. I am born with Stickler syndrome, which is a hereditary and degenerative condition of the retina in my family. It has a number of effects over different parts of the body, but in my family has appeared as very, very nearsighted with very thin, very prone to detachment retinas. So I am visually impaired and currently working a full-time job at Rona and investigating a few things as to what I might want to go back to school for in the future.
Hi, my name is Mika, and I was born and raised in North Vancouver, British Columbia. I was diagnosed with Peters anomaly from birth due to a chromosomal mutation, which essentially means that the components of my eyes aren't connected properly. I've been involved in Blind Beginnings for 10 years, and recently I just finished my first year of post-secondary studies. My goal is to work in the medical field as a dietitian or a naturopathic doctor. I'm also a podcast enthusiast.
So speaking of podcasts, why do we want to start this podcast?
Personally, podcasts are one of my favorite forms of entertainment, and I think it's something that a lot of my friends don't listen to a lot, and I think it would be a cool way to get more exposure out there and to spread the message.
I agree with Nika. I think sometimes podcasts are either underrated or underknown to a lot of general populace. And so I think it's a really interesting way to get it out there and generally be able to hopefully educate some people, and they might learn something interesting that they never would have thought to question before.
Well, I definitely want to educate people about the capabilities of people who are blind. And that's one of the reasons I want a podcast, just so we can showcase the awesomeness that exists amongst many of us. Being blind doesn't have to stop you from achieving or pursuing your dreams. And I hope that we get to talk to lots and lots of different people who are blind or partially sighted, who are going to showcase that to all of our listeners.
Especially right now, I think a lot of people are looking for new forms of entertainment or new ways to consume that entertainment. So I think a lot of people might be trying new podcasts, or if they are entirely new to podcasts to begin with, that they might branch out more than they would in their general life.
I think it'll be a new and fun way to educate the public. I think it's always important to educate people. When people are not educated, then they're unable to see all of our capabilities. I think that the podcast can really reach a wide variety of listeners.
It's very true.
I want to see a Blind Beginnings podcast get off the ground, mostly because I feel like podcasts are something that is accessible to everybody. It's not something that people really have to go out of their way to look for, because most people probably, odds are, listen to at least one podcast, or if they don't listen to it, they know someone who does, or they know someone who knows somebody else who does. And podcasts are just a great media form because you can listen to them while driving, you can listen to them while doing chores, and I think that's something that I would love to see, because it provides a much easier doorway for people to kind of step into this whole world of Blind Beginnings and what we're about, and more specifically about the capabilities of blind people that, like Shawn already mentioned earlier. I feel like it's a great chance to talk about and show our capabilities in a way that is very easily accessed by most people, because podcasts are available everywhere. And like I said, they're easy to listen to or even just put on the background while you're doing other things.
What? You think people are going to have them on in the background while they're doing other things?
I think everybody had podcasts in the background when they're doing other things. Doesn't mean you're not listening.
I'm pretty committed when I listen to a podcast. I don't know.
Here's what's good about a podcast. It's like listening to your favorite morning show, but with no commercials, and you can listen to it whenever you want.
Yeah.
Except for those podcasts with commercials.
Yeah, except for those. Except those are skippable, I hope.
Yeah, they are. You can usually you can fast forward through those.
Yeah, so it's like, imagine that. It's your favorite talk show host or your favorite person to listen to for entertainment, but on demand, when you want, where you want, how you want.
Okay.
You just literally created a slogan out of...
Pretty much. That's the way the world's going, is everything on demand for the consumer.
So who do you guys hope listens to this? Because can you think of somebody in your life that you're like, man, I hope they listen to this and they learn something about blindness? I'm really hoping parents of kids that are blind listen.
I hope that, first of all, parents to either help them and give them tips for raising their own kids that have vision issues. I also hope that those kids / young people, young adults who either want to learn more or maybe have an eye difficulty and don't know much, aren't in this world yet, are, unaware of that there are other people out there like them, or that are having the same difficulties / challenges, and help make them aware that they might have the same challenges as other people out there and that they are not alone.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good point Owen makes. Coming from a small town, and Kolby could probably speak to her small town as well. I was the only person my age with a visual impairment. They were all either, semi-retired folks or younger than me, or in, older classes where I never interacted with them because they were that much older than me. And so it wasn't until I started coming down to Blind Beginning summer camps where I actually met other teenagers with visual impairments.
Even growing up in New Westminster, which is like right in Metro Vancouver, I was the only person in my school. So it's definitely a rarity to be a child or youth with a visual impairment.
And that's actually the same for me too. Although my brother has a visual impairment, I was the only one in my elementary school as well.
I can relate to that as well, because before I joined Blind Beginnings, most of the people I knew who had a visual impairment were adults in the community and not actually people around my age as well.
The only people that I really knew were the seniors that were losing their vision because of old age. And I was basically, at least I think I was the only one in the community.
For me, having nearsightedness and stuff, sometimes definitely not as bad as other people, but I wasn't introduced to being around those people once in a while at Christmas parties and things like that with other kids with visual impairments, but I didn't get to go to my first real, for example, summer camp around other people just like me until I was maybe 8 years old. And I guess that doesn't seem like that old, but it's good to start young.
Yeah, no, I didn't meet any other teenagers until I was in grade 8. I mean, my level of visual impairment, I'm definitely visually impaired compared to all my sighted friends growing up, but it wasn't enough that I still think to this day they don't quite realize my vision, or some of the tried maybe. I generally wouldn't ask them for help if I couldn't see something. I would just go up to the board and sit on the floor in front of it and read the notes that way. But it was, I was a little bit more immersed in it, in the community as a whole in 100 Mile, because my mom, I am in the semi-rare position that it is hereditary, and my mom also has the same eye condition. So I had a parent with the same visual impairment growing up. So that was, very, very strong influence on my personality development and all of that. And so, I didn't know any other kids with visual impairments, but I knew a lot of, community members, family, friends, and such through, white cane clubs and the CCB, Canadian Council of the Blind, and, Christmas parties, meetings, potlucks, stuff like that. But again, it wasn't anyone close to my age. So it wasn't really, hey, let's hang out.
I hope that some people that are in the public community who are sighted could listen to these podcasts, because oftentimes I've talked to other people and I told them about losing my vision and how I used to be able to see quite a bit and now that I can't. And they'll often say, wow, like, I don't know what I would do if I lost my vision. And I think it's important for them to hear these podcasts, because it's not like you lose your vision and everything is hard and inevitable. I think you learn to adapt and you learn skills that can help and benefit you. And I think that's really important, because I don't want people to think just because I lost my vision it's the worst thing ever. Really, it's not the end of the world.
Totally. I totally hope that we have just sort of members of the general public who are curious about blindness that will listen and learn and maybe change their perception of what it means to be blind.
I would say that's even my hope that it eventually that's the biggest demographic I want to follow, that I want to see follow our podcast, because I feel like there are fantastic resources out there, as is, that are family oriented and parent oriented, but I feel like there needs to be more general education and more channels of education that are accessible to Joe Average, who doesn't know any blind person but still has something that they can get out of this podcast.
Cool. So what are we going to talk about on this podcast?
So we're going to talk about everything from general life skills and living with a visual impairment all the way to going to school and maybe meeting new people in crowds.
And a bit of music along the way, probably, at some point.
Getting around in public, maybe if you are shy, we can talk about some of our personal experiences and how we dealt with that.
Love it.
We were even going to possibly give some cooking and other skills throughout this podcast.
And hopefully you can look forward to several interesting interviews in the future.
I know, I'm excited for those interviews.
I think we're going to talk about some things that maybe people wouldn't think someone who's blind would want to do or be able to do, like dance or martial arts or makeup or fashion.
I know, I'm definitely very excited to talk about those topics.
I'm interested to talk about science with other people as well.
So a little bit of everything.
I think my favorite part is that hopefully if somebody's nervous or scared about something or a certain situation and we can cover it here, hopefully it maybe gives them a little bit more confidence to conquer that in their life.
Yes, I agree.
And all of us come from very different backgrounds, so we can all offer different perspectives and interview people with different perspectives as well.
So are there topics that are not allowed on our podcast? Maybe we need to discuss
No,
this?
I don't think so. I mean, if we do discuss them, it's not going to be part of the episode because...
Oh, right.
I don't think you want...
We'll have to say, like, we're not going to talk about beep.
We're not going to talk about...
Introducing our newest segment, Clement and his favorite toy.
Oh boy. I feel like we needed more banter, but I don't know. This is getting out of control.
It's all or nothing, Shawn. Banter is not to be moderated.
Okay. So hope this
I'm gonna
sounds...
go listen to a Dire Straits album after this.
We're gonna put an episode out every 2 weeks.
Tune in so you can tune out the rest of the world and join us on the Limitless Podcast, where we show you that you have no limits whatsoever.
And we can detune the rest of the world.
Oh.
That's what it is right now.
That was a bad joke. But I liked that, Owen.
I may have done this before or not. I don't know.
He may have gone to school for this or not.
Yeah, exactly. Follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud. Check out future episodes by heading on over to www.blindbeginnings.ca. We'll see you next time.
On Limitless.
On Limitless.
The Blind Beginnings podcast.
Okay.